Well, hello there everybody, Andy Spoons here, and we're going to be trying something a little bit different today. I was sent this sharpening system from the Spoon Crank, which is based in Sweden, and they have sent me through, just so that you know, it was sent through for free, so this was a gift. I will add a link in the description, but basically I thought I would give you a run through of everything that came with the kit. To give you the rundown, we have a stropping dowel with a kangaroo leather, and there is a suede and soft side, which I've actually been the most excited to try. I'm a big fan of kangaroo leather for sharpening. They have a secondary dowel, which is what you would use for your abrasives. I'll get to that in a moment. They have the, I guess you would call this kind of the base block, and it has these two pins sitting up here. And for example, here is a Perspex flat plate with, again, some suede kangaroo leather on it. I have already been using this one, but I thought I would go through the rest of the process. We could do this together, kind of unbox it together as you were. But the idea is that you have these plates that sit in the two pins, and that's really solid. You know, what I might do actually, I have this old Moraniv 106. It's one of the carbon ones, and it has definitely seen some better days. What I might do is sharpen that up with this system, and we can see how it works. There's some stropping compound, green compound. I use Veritas green. I'm not sure whether this is the same or slightly different. I will have to ask Dio at Spoon Crank. Then I think kind of the main section are these three prepared sharpening plates, and then all of the sticky backed adhesive wet and dry pieces of paper, and they go from 600 up to 5,000. And I believe the way that this works, or how I'm going to implement it, is you peel off these pieces of paper, adhesive paper, and you stick on, what I'm going to do at least. So for example, this is a 600 and 800 grit. I'm basically just going to stick 600 on one side, 800 on the other side, and then that way, when I'm working up through the grits, I basically just, we'll take off this stropping on for a second. I basically just place it in the spot, and it sits in there. I do the work, and then flip it over. So how about we prepare some of these right now? Okay, so there we go. Like I said, there was a 400, so I had to peel the 800 and change it over, but that's totally fine. So it goes 400, 600, 800, 1500, 2500, and 5000, which is pretty similar to what I would usually do. I don't often go as low as 400. I tend to start around the 600 and go from, 6 to 8 to 12, and then jump up slowly through, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there. But I think that's a great different grit structure to work with, especially the fact that there's 6 of them. That's awesome. These are for the dowel. And again, let's see, I think we have 400, it's the same grit structure, so 400 all the way up to 5,000. I will put, I guess what I think I will do is put some of the higher grits on this one. I think I'm going to do the 3,000 and 5,000 on this dowel, and then I will buy another dowel to put more on. I would love to hear in the comments what your sharpening process is, if it's sandpaper or water stones. Oh, I don't have any fingernails. There we go. Okay. Now, the elephant in the room for me, and I am sure that this will be other viewers' thoughts as well, is this is a disposable style of sharpening. I use diamond stones as much as I possibly can because I don't like the disposable nature of sandpaper. That being said, I think that this is a fantastic way to sharpen your tools. It is inexpensive. I totally appreciate the fact that diamond stones are expensive. This is a really wonderful setup, really concise, really nicely put together. Absolutely no complaints here. I think the system itself is really wonderfully designed. And there is, there is a little bit of wastage, absolutely. But I think that happens with nearly every system, and there's not much you can do, especially when you're looking for an affordable price point. Like I said, I'll put all the prices and things like that in the description. So now that we've put this on, I think what I'd like to do is do a little bit of sharpening just to see how this all functions. So let's start with our 400 side. I'll stick that right in the middle and place it right there. Nice and solid. I'm just going to sit down while I chat. So what I will do here is, and this is, I guess this is a sharpening lesson as well. If you want to put a nice edge by hand, you just mark the bevel. As you can see, it's marked pretty solidly. You can use a Sharpie. Yeah, there you go. Pretty solid all the way. All I'm going to do is place the knife flat and roll over to the bevel. You'll see how I'm kind of working with my fingers right on the back of the spine and then rolling up to the bevel. And then we will see how this grips, because I'm going to pull back with, most of my force. I'm not going to be pulling down. It's mostly going to be back towards me. And then as I move back towards myself, I'm just going to finish by ending up at the tip. And then instead of just sweeping away, you don't really want to sweep away, because what that can do is round your edge. What you want to do is back off the edge and pick it back up. And so you can see that I've kind of pulled a fair bit. I just realized I have hollow ground this in the past. So you can see that either side is starting to take off a little bit of material. And I'm doing this very much by feel right now. I do recommend, if you are starting out, to get the best possible light that you can find. So you can see I'm starting to rub away all of the Sharpie marks. There's still more down here that I obviously need to focus on. But what I do recommend is doing full passes of the entire blade, even when you're trying to hit one spot, just to make sure that it's consistent. That being said, I am noticing that that section does need a lot more attention right at the tip. Could also do with a little attention as well. So don't be afraid, once you feel like you have done those solid passes, to kind of see if we can bring this back to even. And being 400 grit, this is doing some very fast work. And because this is a distal taper, which means it gets skinnier at the top, I am having to just lift the knife slightly at the very end. This isn't like a chef's knife where you can follow. Oh, okay, that's something to think about. So you do want to make sure that you finish right in the middle of this. So the tip is getting pretty nice. This back section still needs a fair bit of work, so let's just focus on that for a second. And what we're doing is we're establishing our primary bevel. And then once we've established this bevel, all we need to do after that is remove the scratch pattern, because you've already done all the hard work. And I'm sure you will have heard what people describe as raising the burr. Now I'll see if you can see that. It might be quite hard to see. But essentially what you're feeling for is, you can kind of see it there, right along the edge. It's really tricky to see. Right along there, so you can see it there. That is where the steel has basically rolled over the edge. And you want to be able to feel that all the way along. Now that's a pretty pronounced burr. I don't often feel like it needs to be that pronounced. But I can feel that burr all the way along the edge. It's feeling really nice. pretty consistent. And that's looking pretty solid to me. Maybe still a little hollowed on that far end, but to be honest, I'm not going to be too precious about this. Just want to make sure that I have a nice consistent scratch pattern all the way along the edge, and that looks pretty good to me. Again, that's still hollowed there from a past hollowing. I could sit here for another 20 minutes and really try and rough that out, but I don't really think I need to. So then you switch to the other side. If you'd like, you can color it in again. Just for the sake of this video, I will. I usually wouldn't at this point because I feel like I tend to find my angle pretty nicely, and because this has already been worked on before. But again, you start with your hand flat on the spine and then roll up. And you're always what you would call edge tailing, which is moving the blade so that the sandpaper runs over the edge, not into the edge. And that's basically just so that you don't cut your sandpaper. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping one thumb here and one finger here. I'm just trying to make sure that I get as even and consistent strokes as I can. What you can do is you could set yourself up and go, 1, 2, and then work your way up the blade like this. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever works for you. The key is consistency. If you feel like you can do that, you can see again I'm taking away pretty consistent amounts of scratch marks. I'm just going to do full strokes because it is hollow ground. That section isn't where the knife's actually engaging, so what we'll do is we'll just peel that off. What I would do if this were, say, my, everyday knife, I would work at that until it was completely gone. Absolutely. This isn't me saying do what I do. This is more just for the sake of education. So you can see that while there's a hollow, I'm hitting both sides, which is essentially the full bevel. And I can feel the burr running. Let's see if you can see it on this side. I don't know if you'll be able to. Probably not. But I can feel that it's kind of crested all the way over the top. And that's great. So then all you need to do from that point on is flip over and keep running your way up the grits, which is really straightforward. That's really great. What I might do is I am just going to run through the grits until I push the burr over either side. And you can see what happens at the end. Okay, so you can now see that I've taken it all the way up. There is still that section through here on both sides where it is a deep hollow. That's not affecting the cutting angle whatsoever. And this is screaming sharp. Here's an envelope right here. One thing worth noting, as I was stropping, I could still see a little bit of the burr. You can really just work back and forth until that burr is completely gone. But because I use these knives as tools, I know that within the first few cuts, especially the roughing cuts, that burr will just fall off. But anyway, so here's double stock thick piece of envelope paper. I think it would be safe to say if it can do that, then it can carve a spoon. So my thoughts. This is a fantastic product, to be honest. Especially if you're someone who needs limited amount of space, you might be taking this traveling. Lots of different reasons. It's really efficient. It's really easy to just kind of slap things on and off. I suppose the one thing that somebody could say is that using sandpaper isn't necessarily the most environmentally friendly version of sharpening, but the more environmentally friendly is a question of, you work in diamond stones, and then the production of that kind of stuff is another question of environmentalism. So I don't want to get into that. This as an affordable sharpening system is great, and as you could see, it brought this fairly beaten up Mora knife up to a good edge. So I hope that you all enjoyed this. If you want to see more of these kinds of, I guess, review style videos, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you about what you'd like to see more of. Obviously, I didn't do the hook sharpening. I can save that for another video. If you like what you're seeing, please consider subscribing and liking the videos, and let me know what you would like to see next. I hope this finds you all well. Thank you so much.